Hi there, John here. Okay, so today's lesson we're going to be doing abbreviated writing styles. So abbreviated means like condensed, shortened, and I'll explain that in a minute. But obviously you're used to, and so you should write in full complete sentences with all your articles and punctuation and everything like that. But you know, sometimes in English, in certain contexts, situations, you shouldn't necessarily write in full sentences. And here I'm going to show you a couple examples. So here we have a couple examples of some job ads. So ads is actually short, abbreviated for advertisements. Okay, so these are jobs that I found on a website actually called Craigslist, which is quite a well-known site in the United States and Canada. And they advertise all sorts of different jobs and apartments and things like that. So here, not so much, but I did see it here, but often the abbreviated style happens in newspapers, for example. You'll see it a lot because in newspapers, they don't have an endless amount of space. You know, their newspapers are, well, standard, and usually it's just a small little box, so they have to write into a very small area. So to put in all these like articles and things like that, it would just take up too much space. Okay, so that's why they do it. Okay, so here's an example, and I'll explain some of them, some of the language for you in just a minute. So here we have high-end rest. Rest, what does it stand for? Not to rest. No, it doesn't, because that's not really, where would you work there? No. Rest stands for restaurant. Looking for evening dishwasher. Eligible applicants only, must have papers. Okay, so that's what it says there. So high-end restaurant. Do you have any idea what that means? High-end. That's right. Yes, it's like kind of a fancy, usually quite expensive restaurant. So yeah, so you know they'll have like many meals. McDonald's. It's not McDonald's. Very far. It's like the opposite of McDonald's. That's the high-end restaurant. And they're looking for someone to do dishes, to wash, clean the dishes in the evening. That's the advertisement. And here we have eligible applicants only. So eligible just means that you're allowed, you're permitted to do that. And if you're the applicant is the person who applies, who is trying to get the position, the job, is the applicant. And when they say must have papers, basically what they're saying is you have to be legal to work. Yeah. So, you know, if you're coming to a country and you don't have the papers, the documents that you're allowed to work, you can't get that job. It's not for you. Okay, so that's kind of it for that first one. Here's another one. Here's a few more abbreviations. So we have FT and PT server. Okay, so a server is, that's right, server like a waiter, waitress. Now they call it a server. And FT-PT stands for full-time or part-time. So full-time means that it's, you know, sort of 40 hours a week. That's sort of generally what a full-time job is. Part-time would just be maybe 2 or maybe 3 days a week, maybe 24 hours a week. So there's maybe 2 positions available, or a couple. And they're wanted for a busy, so many people, pub restaurant. Pub is like an English-style bar. So usually they have many beers on tap. So that means like where they pour out the beers in a glass. And they often serve kind of like fried food, that sort of thing. Kind of a little bit like the opposite of this. It's not really high-end if it's a pub. In downtown, that's like in the center. TO stands for Toronto. And must have serving experience. So you must have served in another place before. So experience serving. And full avail, so full availability, like you have to be available to sort of work anytime. And the last thing, especially popular in Canada and the United States, well, there's minimum wage, which is probably many countries. So like the company or people can't pay less than this amount. That's the minimum wage. Plus tips. So usually, like in a restaurant, in Canada and the United States, when you go and you pay your meal, sometimes you pay a little bit of extra. You give extra money, and that extra money is called the tips, and it usually goes to the server. So that's that. Those are job advertisements, and I wanted to show you also about getting a room if you're looking for shared accommodation. So we're going to do that. Okay, so, you can get a job, but you of course need a place to stay, right? So here's an example of a place to stay. So you've just arrived, and maybe you're staying with someone on the couch. So maybe a family member or something. You managed to get a job, that's great. Now it's time to get your own place, okay? Because you can't sleep on his couch forever. Okay, so here we go. Apartment or flat. Okay, so in Canada, the United States, we say apartment. It's like a building, apartment building. And in England, they say flat. I'm not sure what they say in Australia. They say flat? I'm not sure. So here we have some abbreviated words here. One, BDRM, stands for bedroom. That's it. One bedroom, shared. So that means that you're going to share with someone. Apartment or flat. I don't know. Usually it would just be one or the other. Available March 1st. So a little less than a month. This apartment's going to be available. And they say first and last required. So what that means is usually when you move into an apartment, if it's your own, you sign this thing called a lease. It's like an agreement between you and the person who rents the place. But maybe in this situation, the person you're sharing with already has the apartment, so they already signed the lease, but you have to do this with them. So first and last means that you pay the first month's rent and the last month's rent. Usually it's for like a full year or something. So when you arrive, say in March, you'd have to pay for March, and then say March this year, and then March for the next year. So you would be paying $1,000 on March 1st. And then it says plus util. Util is utilities, short for utilities. And that could include things like, that would be electricity, sometimes heat. What are the other things? Sometimes water. But usually, for example, in Canada, my place, for example, I pay my rent plus I have to pay, my heating is included, but I have to pay for, what do I have to pay for? Electricity. I have to pay for electricity. So that would be maybe a little bit more than $500. And here it says internet that means included. That means that it's part of the $500. So, you could probably see if you open your newspaper, if you have access to it, or on the internet, maybe you saw with the other site, you could see examples like this, and maybe many other examples of abbreviations, okay? So, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I think it's going to be really useful, especially if you decide to come to Canada or the United States and you're not from there. So if you enjoyed this lesson, then you know what you should do is you should go to www.ingvid.com, and that's where you'll find a quiz on this lesson and many other lessons just like that. So, see you there.